Hello, everyone. I'd like to start out just by inviting you guys to think for a second. And think about the last time you had an opportunity to spend some time outdoors, just kind of enjoying nature. And maybe it was at the beach watching the sunset, or maybe you were hiking up a mountain kind of looking out over the valley below you. But just think about how you felt in that moment. And ever since I was really young, I've always searched for these moments out in nature, these moments of clarity. I'd spend every second I could outdoors hiking or biking or just exploring the local park. And one of the most profound experiences I had in the outdoors was 2 summers ago when I was hiking the John Muir Trail. And the John Muir Trail is this 230-mile trail that goes from Yosemite Valley to Mount Whitney, so straight through the heart of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And one of the incredible things about the John Muir Trail is its remoteness. For the 23 days that I was hiking, there was really no cell service, no man-made structures, really no connection to the outside world. And what this did is it allowed you to live a very simple existence on the trail. You'd wake up every morning, and the only things you were worried about are just where you're going to sleep that night, what you were going to eat, how you were going to get over that next mountain pass. And this simplicity, this lack of distractions, allowed you to spend the rest of your time just living in the moment. You'd be enjoying the beauty that surrounds you, all the incredible mountains, or having conversations with your companions. And when I got back to regular society, after so much time in the wilderness, kind of cut off from civilization, it was just overwhelming. My senses were in complete overload. It'd be simple things like sitting in a car or in a coffee shop, and just all the traffic, the people, the noises, all these distractions surrounding me had me completely overwhelmed. It was a culture shock that I can't really explain. And when I got back to regular society, my regular routine, I started to miss some of the aspects of life on the trail, the simplicity of it. And it really made me think about how we're living our lives today and how we used to live our lives. And about 200,000 years ago, the first Homo sapiens evolved. So our species started walking this planet. And we really only started industrializing, creating these massive cities, these massive factories, living the lifestyles we did today, just about 200 years ago. But what does this mean? This means that for 99.9% of our existence, we lived in the outdoors. We were hunter-gatherers. We were farmers. We were these people that lived directly, they lived and worked outside directly with nature, had this really close connection. And today, our lifestyles is a pretty drastic change from that. We can go entire days spent inside without really noticing it. Whether it's a weekend binge watching Netflix or a weekday just going in between school and your car and home and really not being exposed to the outdoors and really experiencing it. And in the Western developed world, most of our, the things we used to get from nature, directly from nature, are provided for us, essentially. At the touch of a button, we have access to fresh water, to cook our food. We can even change the temperature of the environment surrounding us. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these technological advances have done absolutely incredible things for society, allowing us to support a bigger population, live longer lives, healthier lives, and not have to work as hard. But it does make you wonder, is all of this good? Could there be some implications to this drastic change in lifestyle? And I was reading the memoirs of John Muir, one of the most famous naturalists. And he spent a lot of time in the outdoors. I hiked the trail that bears his name. He spent a lot of time out in the Sierras where I was, and had experienced a lot of the same things and had a lot of the same ideas about the simplicity of nature and about being out in the outdoors. And he was realizing this same problem, this same shift in our lifestyle, even 100 years ago. And one of my favorite quotes from him is, "Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wildness is a necessity, and that mountain parks and reservations are fountains of life." And I really like this term, fountains of life. I think it really captures nature's rejuvenating quality. There's been a lot of studies about nature's effects on the brain. Things like increased cognitive function and well-being, and all this science to back up why we should go outside. But I think there's something about our connection to the outdoors that science can't capture. And I think our connection is almost something spiritual. And why is this? I think it's because when you're out in nature and all the distractions are stripped away, you're left with time. Time to reflect, time to really think, time to enjoy the beauty that surrounds you and appreciate the people and places that you exist with. And we don't really have time for that in most of our hectic daily lives. And I watched a film a couple months back called Captain Fantastic. And it's a relatively new film, just came out pretty recently, but it's about this family that grows up in the Pacific Northwest, out in the woods. All these kids, they spend their days living in a tent and living off the land. They're hiking and hunting and fishing, but they also do things like reading and learning languages and making music and having conversations with one another and really developing their minds. And what you find is when they go back to civilization for a time, after spending so much time in the woods, they're living with their aunts in Albuquerque and their cousins. And you see this really sharp contrast between these kids that were raised in the woods and their cousins who were raised in so-called regular society. And the kids that were raised in the woods are lacking in some social skills. They might not know what the latest fashion trends were, or what's going around the internet right now, but they had this really deep understanding of the world and had formed these beliefs and knew all these things. They spent all this time learning, where the kids that were raised just in regular society had spent a lot of the time, playing video games and checking social media and all this stuff that kind of sucks up a lot of time that sometimes we don't even realize. And it was just a really eye-opening example to these two different ways of lifestyle and what we could benefit from going outdoors and kind of removing these distractions. And I read another book called Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey. And Desert Solitaire is a story about a ranger in Arches National Park. And Arches is just this beautiful expanse of desert wilderness out in Utah. And he talks about a lot of the same things that John Muir talks about. He's talking about the simplicity of nature, the beauty of it, the quality of reflection that you can do when you live life outdoors. But he also brings up something a little more concerning. Being a ranger in Arches National Park for an extended period of time, he's able to see it develop. He's able to see the construction of paved roads, of visitor centers, things that take it away from being the wilderness it once was and make it into a little bit more of a tourist attraction. And if any of you guys have been to Yosemite in the summertime, you probably know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it looks a little bit more like Disneyland than it does a wilderness area. And this development has some pluses. It allows for all these people, these millions of people, to experience the gems of our national park system and get outdoors when they might not otherwise be able to access them. But it does make you wonder, are all of our wilderness areas, our open spaces, headed down this same path to development? Places like these, places like Yosemite, to the onlooker, they might look like economic value. They've got all this potential for their natural resources, for building resorts, tourist attractions, but left untouched, these wild spaces hold so much more value. And it's going to be one of the greatest challenges of our generation to remember these places as we move forward, because no place is ever truly protected, even if it's a national park, because the duty falls on each consecutive generation to continue its protection, for it to ever be truly protected. And I'm not just talking about places like Yosemite and the Grand Canyon. I'm talking about places like Spring Lake or Annandale State Park, places in our own backyard that we can go to after school or work and de-stress and rejuvenate and just spend some time out in the natural world. Because these places hold so much value, and they're absolutely crucial to not only the well-being of the individual, but of society as a whole. And I'd like to leave you with one more John Muir quote. Everyone needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to body and soul alike. Thank you.